This is Lauri Anne with Mystic Center, and I want to talk to you about Shavuot. I don't know a lot about Shavuot, the Feast of Shavuot, but it is ordained by our Lord, Yeshua, our Messiah. And so if He said we should celebrate it, then we should celebrate it. What I do know about it is it's a fabulous, fabulous time of the year. It's an agricultural festival. It's celebrating the first fruits of the harvest. So what could be better than that? And it's the same as Pentecost. Pentecost is a Greek word for Shavuot. So just set your sights on pilgrimage with the Lord, and let's put Pentecost aside, because to the Jew first and then the Gentile, right? So Jews don't know what Pentecost is, but they do know what Shavuot is. And when I've celebrated Shavuot, it's just a beautiful expression of being thankful to God for His fruit and His harvest. So if we're going to talk about the fruit of Shavuot briefly, I really would like to just dwell on that and think about your own life. Do you have those fruits? If somebody saw you, would they say, well, there's a true believer? Or do you just give lip worship? Or do you just hang out in the church too much? You're not out there like really suffering outside the camp and really reaching and extending your hands to the poor and needy. These are really important to God. Really, really, really important to God. And I would love you to examine your people in your life. If there are people in your life, especially teachers of the Word, if they are not humble and contrite, and they are not exhibiting the fruit of the Spirit, and they are not visiting the widow and the orphan and giving of their life to those who don't have it, don't listen to their teaching. Don't listen to it. So Shavuot, a lot of Messianics believe it's the joining of the Jew and the Gentile. It's the redemption. It's like the book of Ruth. It's the day of Shavuot, the first day of Shavuot was the day of Pentecost, right? Okay, well, the disciples were up all night, and that's when the tongues of fire came in the book of Acts. Well, the Lord said, tarry here till I come. But it wasn't just that. It was that the night before Shavuot, you stay up, a good Jewish following Jewish person is going to stay up all night reading the Torah. They were reading the Torah all night because they were good Jewish followers, the first disciples. And they were reading the Torah out of obedience to their Lord that they had done for generations, and out of obedience to Messiah, who had said to wait and be waiting and up all night. And that's when the tongues of fire came. And of course, Peter, who was scared before, went the next day, spoke in tongues, and all of those the different dialects, all the Jewish people heard in their different dialect at the same time, and 3,000 people came to know the Lord that day. That was the first fruit of the church. That was the fulfillment of the feast. That was prophetically fulfilling the feast. So if you decide to celebrate the feast, break bread, and it can have leaven in it. It's a symbol of the Jewish believers and the Gentile, and we're full of sin. But we break bread together, we honor the Lord and thank Him for His harvest. I'm sure there's more incredibly deep studies on Shavuot you can find out there. I've been really blessed whenever I celebrate any of the feasts of the Lord. He comes to dinner. He comes to dinner. He comes to my house. And I don't do Him religiously or legalistically or anything. I just open my home and I ask the Lord to come, and He brings His people, He brings non-believers, He brings joy. And I mean, once I just made a cheesecake with like French butter and macadamia nuts and like all these things, and and that Shavuot was interesting because only women came, and I thought that was interesting because of the book of Ruth, and it talks about the Redeemer, and all these were women who've been broken relationships or lost, broken women he brought. And one of the women came that wasn't eating that night because she was on a diet, and she said she was dying because as people bit into the cheesecake, their faces just, it was like that movie, the like Water for Chocolate. I mean, it was a beautiful expression of God's love. And all I did was just make a cheesecake and invite people over. So it can be really, really simple. But I really know the Lord honors his feasts, and he comes and he ministers to people. There was another feast of Shavuot 1,500 years earlier, before the first day of the church, when Peter got up. And that was actually when God was angry with the people at Mount Sinai, and 3,000 people died that day. It's kind of interesting, the dichotomy of that. Like the law and our sin, we are going to die, but because Messiah came, he gives us fruit and gives us life. Now, think of how weird that day was when Peter got up and spoke in tongues, and everybody heard in their own language. All these people got saved. These were all Jewish people, right? These are fruits of the Spirit too. It's tough to really follow the Lord because you're not going to be widely accepted. That wasn't like an organized thing going on that day. There wasn't like a convention. There wasn't like a ceremony. It wasn't like a church service. It was probably a little bit chaotic and absolutely extraordinarily beautiful. Can you imagine that power that went out that day? When you follow the Lord, you get the opportunity to move in power. I've spoken in tongues, and people have heard in their own language, and they've gotten saved. And if I tell believers about it, 90% of them don't believe me, don't care, or they mock it. So I don't tell them, I'm just going to move in the Spirit and keep moving in the Spirit. I move in miracles. I move in healing. I experienced a healing recently of a woman who literally came out of a body bag. She was in there 4 hours. Pronounced dead, already done, sealed up, done deal. The Lord brought her out because he said, she's only sleeping. Do I tell everybody? No, because they're not going to mock me. They're not going to believe me. How often do you go to church? It's like, when you follow the Lord, just wait for him, let the tongues of fire come, go out and open your mouth and let the fruit be born. Honor God with Shavuot, and he will honor you with his presence, and you will have more fruit in your life as you get to know Yeshua, the Messiah, and know the roots of your faith. You're going to be a deep tree. You're going to dig deep and have lots of branches. So bless you.